refers to Christ, he's always like, no, it's always about him.
Yeah, that's right. Yet that doesn't suggest the Holy Spirit is in any way inferior to the Father or the Son.
No, with the power that he has.
Yeah, look out. Don't stand in his way.
That book,
verse 24 says, wives should submit in everything to their husbands. Everything means everything. Agree, yes, no, disagree. Why? Who's got something? Josh?
First, can you repeat what you said? I like how you said submission doesn't mean inferiority. Is that what you said, right?
Hierarchy doesn't.
Oh, hierarchy doesn't mean inferiority. Good. Yeah, I kind of had to stop.
I'd also say submission doesn't mean inferiority.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, a good point in marriage. Very good. So,
something on everything means everything.
So yeah, I think that as far as everything and wives submit to your husbands and everything. Now if your husband is asking you to drink some kind of special Kool-Aid that, that isn't necessarily good for your health, I would suggest disobeying that command. Of course, if the wife is in danger physically and things like that, I mean, the husband is trying to, force her to do things that are dangerous to her health or things like that. Yeah, but as far as if the husband is just trying to lead in a godly way, yeah, absolutely. Everything. The wife should submit in everything. And I think a lot of times it's hard for them because, of course, they have their own will. Genesis 3:16, right, is a great verse where it talks about, your desire will be for your husband, which a lot of people, they translate that, or the meaning of that, not that you desire them sexually, but your desire will be to conquer or rule over your husband, but he will rule over you. But he will, usurp, exactly. Or he will rule, but he will rule over you. So, oftentimes the natural woman, her desire is not to submit to her husband, to rule over him. And, that's something that the husband has to be aware of and know that he needs to stand sometimes if his wife is trying to do that, to stand strong and not allow that in the home. Otherwise, everything is chaotic and you're out of order and it doesn't bring God honor, really.
And of course, Genesis 3:15 was for a fallen world, an imperfect world. In a perfect world, like before Adam and Eve fell into sin, I mean, none of this, they just meshed. There was never, they were heartbeat right along with God. But then all of a sudden, when the fall came, there started being adversarial relationship, and there started things getting out of balance. And so that's why we need Ephesians 5. It addresses reality in a fallen world. It's not perfect, but this is the closest this is to bring each other up to the Lord who is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, two quick things. One was, I was always taught that Eve was very easily tricked by the serpent in the garden, while Adam wasn't. Yeah. He went into sin with his eyes wide open. And so God basically said, okay, Adam, you weren't fooled, so I'm going to put you in charge of spiritual matters, and you're responsible for it as well. But then you have the however, which is, however, there are a lot of weak husbands within marriages, and when that happens, the wife is still supposed to submit in the hope of causing the husband to become sanctified and draw him closer to the Lord. And that's a really interesting seesaw balance, trying to get that right.
Okay. All right. Is it 1 Timothy where it talks about no, Corinthians. I can't remember chapter and verse.
Corinthians 5.
Okay, winning your husband over. Yeah.
1 Corinthians 5, I think.
Yeah.
No, that's talking about actually immorality. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. I just read that today, but I know the verse you're talking about. I can't remember where it's at though.
Yeah.
Gosh, where is that at?
Your unbelieving husband over by your attitude.
Yeah, I can't remember. Let me think.
I don't have it either.
Yeah.
Let's try number 6. In verse 25, Paul Paul does not tell the husband to rule his wife, he tells him to love his wife. Submission is for the wife to offer, not the husband to demand. Agree, yes or no? Disagree? Why?
Submission is a willful act. That's, again, it's for the wife to offer to the husband in obedience to what God has told her to do. I mean, it goes back to verse 22, you know. It's a command. This is what a wife, a godly wife, is supposed to do. You know, you can't expect that from an ungodly wife. But...
Good. Yeah, you said that about 10, 20 minutes ago. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Means a lot. Josh?
Sorry, can you read that question again?
Number 6. Submission is for the wife to offer, not the husband to demand.
Oh.
Agree? Yes, no, disagree. Okay, Josh?
Yeah, you can't force a woman to submit. Yeah, you can ask her to do certain things, but you can't force them. You know, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. So, if you were just to sit there and just keep, you know, harping on them to, you know, you got to let it go. You know, if a woman's going to do what she's going to do, you got to let her go and pray for her, but you can't force anyone to do anything. So that's not what.
A lot of men try to beat them into submission.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's not what St. Paul wants.
No.
Number 7. The Message paraphrases 5:21-25 this way. Out of respect for Christ, be courteously reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. Husbands, provide leadership to your wife the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. Agree, yes, no, disagree. Why?
I said number 11.
Okay. A major agreement. Okay. All right. Bob?
I thought there were a lot of buzzwords in there, and all the buzzwords are correct, but I thought they might have been misaligned a little bit, because I was always taught that men are to understand. It says wives understand and support. I was taught wives are to support, but husbands are to understand their wives. Where it says, out of respect for Christ, women are to respect their husbands, but men are to love their wives. To be courteously reverent, both parties should be courteous, reverent, can't even say the word, reverent at all times to all people. And cherishing is what we should all do just for the fact that we have life. So we should cherish everything and everybody at all times. But I just really like the idea that men love, women respect.
Okay. All right. That is the emphasis.
And again, to the man, it's a command, and it's there's no condition to God, you know, to the command. It says, you know, men, love your wives. It's unconditional. There's no excuse for us not doing that to our wife. I don't care how bad the wife is.
All right.
God's not giving us a door to get out of.
Yeah.
The woman has.
Like Bob was saying, you may not like something, but you always love. You always love. Please, someone to read 25 through 30. 25 through 30. Husbands, love your wives.
I'll do it.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Okay. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of the water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church, For we are members of his body, of his flesh, of his bones.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Number 8, verse 25 says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did Christ love the church? Josh.
He taught, and even when the church rebelled, he forgave, but he always stood for the truth. This is something I wrote down because everyone in the church has got issues and not perfect, and we're all sometimes disobedient. So I just wrote this down. I shared this with some people before, but part of it is like you teach your wife, you wash her in the Word of God, even if she may not want to hear it. Sometimes you share it. But praying, you got to pray for her when she rebels and refuses to submit to you, if that's the case. Forgive her when she may hate you and treat you horribly for standing on God's truth. This is the worst case scenario, And if she's rebelling, you don't make her your God, but you lead as a man should in the home, even if it means she leaves in rebellion while you stand for God's truth. It's great when a wife is easy to love and submits to you, but that is definitely not always the case, and wars in the home must be dealt with in a godly manner.
Well, where did you find, who wrote that?
I did.
You wrote that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was an published article.
No. Well,
That's Josh.
Good job.
Thanks.
Well, I don't like the word, but I mean, it's accurate. Warring.
Yeah. Right. Spiritual battle.
It would be really nice if every time you were in the spirit, she was in the spirit, and every time you slipped and fell, and you were in the old nature, she was in the old nature, at least as far as unity goes. Then there'd be no fight.
Right? Exactly.
The idea is that by having two, when you fall, the other one picks you up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're supposed to lean against each other so that neither of you actually remain in a fall position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like the Proverbs, what is it? A cord with 2 strands is not, no, 3 strands is not easily broken. Husband, wife, plus the unseen God, Jesus. Yeah.
Amen.
Number 9, verse 27 says, Christ lived and died that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. Everything Christ does and says is to bring out the best in the church, believers. Verse 28 says, in the same way, husbands should what?
Love their wives.
Yeah, love their wives. So how can husbands go about bringing out the best in their wives?
Listen to them.
Hey.
They like to talk. They get 13,000 words a day to speak, and we get 8, they say. I don't know how they figure that stuff out. But if a guy goes to work and he uses up 7,500 words, he comes home, he's only got 500 left. And she still has 1,300 she wants to use on him. So that's kind of tough. You got to be there spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. Hard job.
I heard one sister in the Lord said, women use twice as many words in talking to their wives and to their husbands because their husbands don't listen and have to repeat themselves.
A lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Golly. Someone else. Let's go on to number.
Well, what's Paul got?
I was just gonna say, by being godly husbands. I mean, if we're godly husbands, and of course, John, you're the exception to the rule because you were a godly husband and your wife left. But I mean, if we're a godly husband and we've got a godly wife, you've got a godly family. You know,
Yeah.
Things will work out.
It goes up and down, up and down.
They will. Number 10, verse 28, he who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it. Just as a husband protects his own body from cold and hunger, and when sick and suffering endeavors to restore it to health, so he should treat his wife. Why is that? What does this say about the closeness God desires in marriage? Okay, Josh.
Well, I think if you mistreat anybody, it's not going to go well in a relationship. So, yeah, you have to love, care as best you can, and prayer. Pray for your wife, and be as patient as you can, forgiving as you can, and all that. And yeah, it's any relationship, and that's with, of course, other relationships too. But it's like, yeah, it takes work. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be intentional and deliberate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bob?
In God's eyes, he, at the marriage ceremony, says that the two become one. And then what we just read, too, it says, who doesn't love himself? So if the two become one, she is a part of you and you're a part of her. And in a sense, you're like insurance for each other. As one falls, the other picks one up. As one is facing a need, the other one fulfills it. So that they always say 2 eyes are better than one, or 2 heads are better than one. Having a team perform as opposed to an individual. I know when I had cancer, I liked having a team there, not just one guy. So leave it there.
Yeah. I think sometimes one or the other in the marriage does have to kind of carry the relationship sometimes. Like in some kind of crisis or some kind of, season in the marriage, one or the other will be there to carry it. And then maybe the other at a later time will be the one to help carry it. But of course, God's the one that does the heavy lifting.
It's nice when partners have different strengths too, because if you have the exact same strengths, you'll be butting heads all the time. But if you have different strengths, then it's like, oh, this is your bailiwick. You can handle this. Yeah, I'll take care of it. No problem.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then they appreciate you more too, because my wife hates spiders. It's like, oh, there's a spider. Can you kill it? I tell her a spider, and it's like, oh, I get a hug. She goes, what would you like for dinner? It's like, it took me 3.5 seconds to kill a spider.
Yeah, really. Well, easy victory.
I should buy spiders and put them in strategic.
Good one.
Number 11. How should a husband live for his wife according to 25 through 30? Circle which letters apply. A, he should be willing to sacrifice everything for her. B, he should make her well-being of primary importance. C, he should care for her as he cares for his own body. All of these, some of these, none of these. Who's got? Okay, Bob.
I know you want all of these, and I would say all of these, but I can really nitpick when it says, be willing to sacrifice all for her. Not when she's in her old nature. I'm not willing to sacrifice that. Make her of primary importance. No, God's primary. She is secondary. But C, I'll take.
Okay. I hear it. Somebody else. Okay, Josh.
I think there's some things, yes, be willing to sacrifice, but then there's some things as far as maybe like your godly principles that you cannot sacrifice, right? You have to stand for God. Even if your wife is trying to influence you against God or lead you in a different path. So there are some things, maybe material things or whatever, but of course be willing to give. But there are also some things that you have to maintain your leadership, and you can't sacrifice that. So, and figuring all that out, that's between you and the Lord,
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Verses 31 through 33. We're in the home stretch here. Therefore, a man. Who'd like to read?
I'll read.
Okay, Paul.
Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The mystery is profound. I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church. Therefore, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband.
Thanks, Paul.
Nice translation with the word profound.
I didn't like that
where
word.
was that?
Oh, you didn't like it?
And verse 32.
Yeah, this mystery is profound. What do you have?
Mine says this is a great mystery.
Oh, okay.
The Greek lends to that great, high in order or importance, but profound is a whole different.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
At least the way I understand profound. But it's...
Yeah. I think this is English Standard Version, ESV. I don't know what their thinking was in that translation. But number 12, verse 31 says, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. What does that say about same-sex marriage?
We want to go there. That's another 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Paul. Yeah, this is, Paul said it, Jesus quoted it. It's out of what, Genesis 2:15, I think? For a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become. So it's a man and a woman in a singular relationship, not a guy and a guy or a gal. Yeah, Bob.
Okay, I'm going to boil down a 30-minute lecture into a very short period of time here. From a Jewish perspective, taking the Old Testament, which points to the New Testament, they talk about marriage, birth, and the new birth, and they all commingle together because God is sovereign. And the thing is, in marriage, two become one, husband and wife. In birth, you get the I'll just say the sperm and the egg, and they come together to become one. And then in the new birth, you get the Holy Spirit, and you get the unbeliever. They come together, and now he's a believer. The two become one. And the thing is, when you get into same-sex marriage, you kind of destroy the model because you don't have the ability to create a child together. And God in Romans 1:18, going up to chapter 3, he uses the word, he abhors same-sex relationships in that manner, sexually. So if God is non-compliant, or if man is non-compliant with God's plan, then we're looking for a bruising here. This is not something we want to be dealing with at all.
Cruising for a bruising.
Yeah, it's
Number...
It's interesting that science, affirms same-sex. Yet, if you look in science, you've never seen two male gorillas having fun together, or two male
smashing their faces.
You don't find it anywhere in the animal kingdom. It's unique to man.
Yeah, and it's a biological dead end. So all you Darwinists there, all you evolutionary people, get on board. I mean, same-sex marriage goes absolutely counter to Darwinism. It's a biological dead end.
It's also denying that you have an old nature. See, it comes back to that every time.
That's why you're here, Bob. Number 13, verse 33, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. What if a husband loves his wife as himself, but his wife does not respect him? Or what if a wife respects her husband, but her husband does not love her as himself? Why would this happen? What's the cause? We've probably talked about it a few times already, but summing it up.
Yeah, these are commands. They're not suggestions. These are commands. The woman, regardless of how the husband is treating her, if he's abusing her, she's tasked to respect the fact that he is the husband. And the husband, regardless of how the wife disrespects him, his love has to be unconditional. So,
physical abuse, she can get out of the way.
Yeah, she can move out. Separate herself physically. And I would suggest that.
Yeah,
she could call me, and I'd be happy to go over and talk to her husband.
Paul would have been a great military individual. You know that?
Oh, he is military. Air Force.
Yep.
I was in the Air
Someone
Force.
else. Wrapping it up. Final comments. Okay, Josh.
Yeah, I think that's the key issue, because anyone can be married when everything is going good, but what happens when that happens, right? You have So I think it's a maturity issue, and the one that is doing the right thing just has to keep doing the right thing regardless of what the other person is doing, because now it's coming down to sacrificial love and agape love, and agape includes patience and forgiving and all that kind of stuff that God's trying to grow in us. So yeah, we have to exercise that and pray for strength if the spouse isn't doing the right thing, and keep our eyes on Jesus ultimately, and keep going forward with Jesus, because if that spouse leaves or whatever, you might have to accept that too. But whatever it is, like you look at Lot's wife, how she turned back and turned into a pillar of salt, but Lot had to keep going, with God. So it comes down to just keeping your relationship close, staying close to the Lord. I think that if one of the spouses is way off somewhere in the wrong, it's because that her relationship or his relationship with the Lord isn't that good, and they've departed from God. And like our pastor, for our premarital counseling, says that if the wife doesn't submit to the husband, she's not submitting to God. And the same thing, if the husband goes off and cheats on his wife, or does weird stuff, then he's not submitted to God either. So that's the thing, is you have to just, bottom line, stay close to the Lord, whatever, regardless of what your spouse does.
Amen. Bob?
Yeah, the simple answer is find the cause, and the cause is that the person's not in the spirit; they're in their old nature. But mankind seems to have a big problem with treating symptoms instead of the actual cause of the disease. We tend to look at the effects instead of the actual cause. And we see this with people who are unequally yoked. We see this where the maturity levels of the husband and wife are totally different. One is, very solid, and the other one may be kind of wishy-washy. Oftentimes, one is they're interested in eros love, and the other one is interested in filial love, and so you got a problem there. And then you have the male's failure to attempt to understand, because the wife wants to talk, and not bringing it to God and to His Word to find out where the true solution is our problem. If we will come to God whenever we have a problem and truly try and search it out and seek it out and pray together and individually, we'll have a much better chance of having a positive relationship.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Trina, if you'd like to participate.
I hope this video bless you, friends. Please share it. Pray that we can be the husbands we need to be, and that wives be the wives they need to be. Pray for the marriages in the church. And please comment and let me know what you think. Oh, sorry, I should have muted that. So, yeah, I'll upload that shortly. Yeah, I'll send it to you guys. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll upload that soon, and I'll share it with you guys. Thanks.